Hello, everyone. My name is Gary Courtney. I'm the Director for Jobs for the Future's National Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility and Registered Apprenticeship Technical Assistance Center of Excellence, also known as the National DEIA Center of Excellence. At Jobs for the Future's National DEIA Center of Excellence, we are deeply committed to fostering inclusive environments within registered apprenticeship. It's not solely about fulfilling quotas, rather, it's about ensuring genuine representation, fostering an environment of equal opportunity, and creating spaces where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to succeed. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar titled Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative, Advancing Women in the Construction Industry. Today's webinar will be led by one of our subject matter experts within our National Center of Excellence, Chicago Women in Trades. Chicago Women in Trades has a rich history with over 40 years experience providing quality woman-focused pre-apprenticeship training and programming to help women access careers in the skilled construction, manufacturing, and transit rail industries. Chicago Women in Trades also serves as a technical assistance provider, helping industry stakeholders develop best practices to recruit, assess, train, and retain women in the skilled trades. Their Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative is an extension of this work, and we are thrilled to gain more insight into it today. This conversation couldn't be more timely. With $1.2 trillion in infrastructure investments through the Bi-Partisan Infrastructure Law and the high-paying jobs that come along with infrastructure work, we know this is an audience of many different stakeholders. Whether you are a workforce board, the director of an apprenticeship program, or a union leader, we hope that each of you, whatever role you have, will find a key takeaway for how you can ensure that there is a diverse, equitable, and inclusive workforce on job sites. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. I am confident that our discussions will be insightful and thought-provoking. Let's make the most of this opportunity to learn from each other and drive positive change. And now, I would like to introduce Chicago Women in Trades as they lead today's webinar, Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative, Advancing Women in the Construction Industry. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Gary, for that introduction, and thank you to our audience for tuning in. We're so excited to have you all here. I'm Candice Magursa, the Technical Assistance Manager for Chicago Women in Trades, National Center for Women's Equity in Apprenticeship and Employment. And I'd like to pass the mic to my colleague, Tina, to give you a little bit introduction about herself and TBII.
Thank you, Candice, for that introduction. My name is Christina Bareilles-McEntee. People call me Tina for short. I am the director of the Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative at Chicago Women in Trades National Center. I am a union plumber by trade out of Chicago, Illinois, Local 130 UA, and I have 24 years of experience in my trade. At my time as a tradeswoman and as an advocate for my sisters has shown me that this opportunity that we are in with all this infrastructure money coming in, it is very important to use this time to focus on the access in these career opportunities going forward for women. Women currently represent 4% of unionized construction workforce in this country. And this is women that actually work and carry tools on the job sites. Chicago in the Trades, alongside with different tradeswomen organizations around this nation, are working together to increase the number of women in these fields. And it's not just in recruitment alone, but also in retention. We are working with Central Ohio Women in Trades. We are also working with Heartland Women in Trades in Kansas City, Missouri, as well as Texas Women in Trades, Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative out of Philadelphia, and West Virginia Women Work in Morgantown, West Virginia, to lead these type of opportunities and make the most of this moment, this historic moment that Gary had mentioned earlier, and make these investments actually substantial and make a difference in women's lives and in our communities. Working in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Labor, Women's Bureau, and the Illinois Department of Labor, Chicago Women Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative, also known as TB, seeks to accelerate state and local efforts, increase women and people of color's inclusion and equity in construction trades jobs, specifically on publicly funded projects like these big mega projects going on in different areas. The initiative builds upon the first phase initiative, which was conducted in the fall of 2022, that supported tradeswomen organizations in 11 states and municipalities across the country, who all mobilized community-based collaborative teams to develop and implement workforce equity plans around these infrastructure projects in their areas. These groups received guidance from federal agencies such as the Department of Energy, Department of Commerce, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Labor to strategize and implement ways to gain the full benefit of infrastructure funds in their regions. As these infrastructure laws provide an opportunity to address transportation, energy, and power infrastructure needs, while also expanding access to broadband internet, water infrastructure, and more projects in these regions. This guidance was critical in ultimately ensuring that women and people of color gain access to high-wage jobs these projects can create. The initiative was built upon the National Task Force on Women's Tradeswomen Issues framework promoting equity and inclusion for women and people of color working in the trades on publicly funded infrastructure projects. There will be a link that will be provided so that you guys can read this presentation. This framework includes provisions such as community monitoring and publicly funded infrastructure projects, with projects requiring transparency and public online reporting of achievement toward equity goals, which should be updated twice per month. This is basically holding accountability and also creating some form of transparency. The framework also calls for enhanced oversight of publicly funded infrastructure projects with training for contractors and subcontractors on how to create a safe and respectful work site. One of the approaches in this framework is to provide supportive services as it frames pipeline programs such as pre-apprenticeship training as supportive services that is essential in helping women and people of color get their feet in the door, along with other supportive services such as childcare stipends, transportation assistance, and other resources. I want to focus on the 4 concepts that we had created for this initiative. The first being workforce equity plans. The initiative will promote the creation and adaptation of the workforce equity plans on major infrastructure projects and offer training and customized worksite specific guidance to public agency, construction companies, unions, registered apprenticeships involved in these projects. This is where we work with our local tradeswomen organizations and actually frame the work specific to each area. The second outcome is developing best practices for respectful and harassment-free work sites. The initiative will establish and encourage the adaptation of best practices for respectful and harassment-free workplaces, which respond in a unique way that harassment manifests itself on the work sites. This should include also bullying and just bad behavior that happens on the work site. It is unfortunate, but it does happen. The third outcome that we envision is gathering data analysis and conducting evaluation. This is the work that we're doing specifically with the Illinois Department of Labor, serving them as the model after they have passed the HB 3400 bill. They will work to promote further learning and evaluation of best practices through demographic data analysis of overall public sector construction workforce in Illinois to understand in relatively real time, women's participation in the workforce, and where there are opportunities for growth. Our fourth outcome is scaling best practice. This initiative will use this learning to scale promising practices and promote similar efforts across the country through convenings with stakeholders such as industry leaders, workforce agencies, and public contracting agencies as partners in promoting workforce equity and adopting plans. This is meant to kind of customize and focus area specific so that anything that is being done and being promoted and working for women and people of color to get into these industries, to really focus on the area and be mindful of the area that we are looking at. Our 6 regional teams currently that Chicago Women in Trades, Central Ohio Women in Trades, Heartland Women in Trades, Texas Women in Trades, Women in Non-Traditional Careers, and West Virginia Women Work are working diligently to build regional coalitions to advance women and people of color in skilled trades within their regions. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from a few of them, but most important of their work, their goals, and how they plan to reach them. As this work initially started in the fall of 2022, we want to start off by hearing from Vermont Works for Women, located in Vermont, as they provide insight on the progress of the work that they have done through the Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative.
Thank you, Tina, for providing the context and background of the Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative. As Tina already mentioned, the first group featured in our presentation is Vermont Works for Women, based out of Winooski, Vermont. Ronnie Basden joined Vermont Works for Women in 2019 and is currently serving as the executive director.
Hello, I'm Ronnie Basden, the executive director at Vermont Works for Women. Vermont Works for Women is an economic justice nonprofit that is statewide and was first established in 1987 as Northern New England Tradeswomen's Association. Our organization really seeks to not only support women and youth in exploring trades careers, getting certified in trades careers, and connecting to employers in trades careers, but we also work with employers, state agencies, educational institutions on learning and work environments to ensure that all are inclusive and working towards strong recruitment and retention of diverse work populations. Vermont Works for Women first engaged in our equity and infrastructure framework in 2022, along with Chicago Women in Trades and the Women's Bureau. We were really excited to be one of the grantee partners that was able to go down to Washington, D.C., really learn from other tradeswomen's organizations, and also learn more about the equity infrastructure projects that the federal government is rolling out and the initiatives that they are really working towards to support more women in the trades and more diverse populations across trades, contracted work, and infrastructure projects. Vermont Works for Women really hit the ground running when it came to developing our equity framework. We were really excited to launch into this project to first discover where Vermont stands today. What does it look like across our contracted partners? What does it look across projects? And what are some of the goals our state currently is working towards? And then how can our organization, with the work we do, but also the partnerships we work to develop, help to enhance some of those goals to really bring more opportunity to Vermont and really more opportunities to Vermont women and youth going into these career pathways. So we were really fortunate to partner with our Vermont Agency of Transportation, Vermont Agency of Education, our Vermont Department of Labor, our Vermont Office of Economic Opportunity, our Vermont Office of Racial Equity, as well as many employer partners, a lot of our infrastructure contracted partners, some of our community training organizations, and then also our Vermont State and Community College partners who really help work towards the same initiatives. So we gathered many different working group meetings to really discuss where does Vermont stand today, what are some of the challenges that we face as a state in accomplishing these goals, whether that be the rural nature of our state, the low numbers of women currently enrolled within trades careers, or whether our transportation and childcare structures are what we need to better support getting more women into this work. So we were able to really identify the current challenges and really work towards what are some of the ways that we can address those challenges collaboratively. So whether it comes to providing holistic supports in transportation and childcare, we partnered with our childcare advocacy organizations that work towards high-level state policies to help ensure we have more childcare centers, that we have flexible childcare options for a lot of different work opportunities, and that we're providing the necessary supports to ensure that people can get to work as one of the strongest barriers across our state. So we are currently sitting at a fully developed equity framework. It lives on our website and as a live document that we take around to any of our partners and share our work. But we also utilize that document to really navigate conversations about, one, how to bring in federal funding opportunities and how Vermont Works for Women can work with those applying for these large infrastructure project opportunities to, one, support conversations with their current employees and current staff. We do gender equity trainings. We talk about, busting gender bias and how do you have policies and practices that can really retain and support a diverse workforce. But we also work to train and help build empowerment into the next generation of the workforce. So that's in our youth programming through any of our after school and summer camp programs that are focused on exploration, curiosity building, and skill development, as well as our pre-apprenticeship programs across the state, supporting women 18 plus in free and paid trades training programs. So these are 7-week training cohorts that really provide the necessary pre-apprenticeship training to go into a job and learn the on-the-job skills to be ready, as well into going into our state apprenticeship programs. So Vermont Works for Women is really excited to still be actively engaged in conversations, to be actively working with a lot of the partners that we worked with to develop this framework, and to really continue to work with our other tradeswomen's organizations across the country, just like Chicago Women in Trades, who really help us to see what are the opportunities and potential that we can roll out here in Vermont.
Our next group is Chicago Women in Trades, located, as stated in the name of the organization, in Chicago, Illinois. Beth Berenson is the Policy Director of Chicago Women in Trades through our National Center for Women's Equity in Apprenticeship and Employment. She's been a key leader in driving strategic policy in both the city of Chicago and state of Illinois to increase gender equity on publicly funded infrastructure projects.
My name is Beth Berenson, and I am the Policy Director at Chicago Women in Trades. In 2023, Chicago Women in Trades led an advocacy effort to pass House Bill 3400, legislation aimed at increasing transparency around the hiring of women and people of color on publicly funded infrastructure projects. Working with leaders in the Illinois General Assembly, we looked at the existing reports that contractors have to file with the Illinois Department of Labor under the state's Prevailing Wage Act, and adjusted them to include publicly sharing the data on the demographics of the workforce on these projects, including their race, gender, and ethnicity, by hours worked and by trade, in order to increase accountability for diverse hiring and identify gaps in contractors meeting their hiring goals for women and people of color. This was done in collaboration with the department and was signed into law by the governor over the summer. Under the Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative, our key collaborators include the Illinois Department of Labor, who is leading on the federal grant with Chicago Women in Trades. Their involvement in the work has brought other state agencies who are managing infrastructure projects to the table and really helps to build up the foundation of data transparency that was initiated under House Bill 3400 by looking to really strengthen that work. We are currently in conversations about improving not only the public reporting, but also improving contractor education and understanding to ensure stronger compliance on the data collection. We have also established a strong collaboration with the Illinois Department of Transportation, who of course is the largest recipient of infrastructure dollars in the state, and who is working with us to identify a local transportation infrastructure project where we could pilot some key best practices to address workforce inequities. Specifically, the pilot would include more focused enforcement of federal EEO hiring goals for women and minorities, as well as having a community oversight and monitoring committee made up of key stakeholders in the industry to ensure the success of workforce diversity efforts on the project by intervening when problems are identified and lifting up examples of successes from other projects. We're also hoping to implement an industry-specific respectful worksite program to address instances of harassment and bullying and discrimination on the job and improve the retention of women over the course of the project through better working conditions. Similarly, we are also in conversations with local contractors about piloting a respectful worksite program and adopting stronger anti-harassment employer policies for their workplaces, so the workers feel safe and supported on their job sites. We have recently begun working with consultants to develop an internal protocol and training for when our own staff are approached with reports of harassment and discrimination from tradeswomen in our community, so that they know the options available to them to pursue, can be coached through them and the decision-making process, and our staff can really approach these complaints with a trauma-informed lens. Our next steps include finalizing the selection of the pilot with the Illinois Department of Transportation and engaging local public owners of infrastructure projects here in the city, including the Chicago Department of Aviation and the Chicago Transit Authority, to incorporate similar practices. We are also looking to pass a comprehensive ordinance at the Chicago City Council to institutionalize an emphasis on workforce diversity on city-funded construction projects.
Our next feature is from WINC, otherwise known as the Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative, based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sue Hoffman is a former senior associate with Philadelphia Works, the city's workforce development board. She led and now consults for the Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative.
Hi, my name is Sue Hoffman, and I'm going to introduce you to WINC, the Women in Non-Traditional Careers Initiative. In the next few minutes, I will be giving you an overview, talking about WINC's technical assistance work, discussing why we focus on both supply and demand to promote workforce diversity, and talk about our future plans. So let me stop sharing and just talk to you about those things. WINC is an initiative in the Philadelphia region to support, increase, and advance the participation of women in trades careers for construction, manufacturing, utilities, and transit. So we go beyond just the construction apprenticeship and construction trades and have a broader focus. We were founded in 2018 based on conversations with tradeswomen and advocates and workforce board staff about the challenges of recruiting and retaining women in trades careers, including in apprenticeship. So now WINC is a multi-stakeholder collaboration. We have hundreds of folks from community colleges, apprenticeship programs, training programs, employers, unions, community-based organizations, government agencies, and most importantly, tradeswomen, who are all part of the WINC initiative. We're a project of Philadelphia Works, and that's significant because Philadelphia Works is our local workforce board in Philadelphia. So federal and state workforce dollars flow to Philadelphia Works that we're able to use for WINC. WINC is one of many projects that Philadelphia Works sponsors that support apprenticeship and new career pathways for a diverse workforce. So that's WINC in a nutshell. Let me talk about the role that technical assistance plays in our work. Technical assistance is core to the success of WINC. Thanks to our partner, Chicago Women in Trades, and our local tradeswomen, WINC has gained experience and is able now to offer technical assistance to union leadership, to trades apprenticeship programs, workforce system partners, educators, public agencies, and contractors. Our focus has been especially on offering in-person workshops and one-on-one consultation, especially to trades, apprenticeship program coordinators, and union leadership. They're the ones that often have the best intentions, but they lack the know-how or capacity to implement best practices for gender equity. And so we start with the basics with them, how to recruit more women into apprenticeship And increasingly, they've asked us to talk to them also about retention practices. So after 5 years of doing this kind of outreach and technical assistance, we are able now to offer a whole menu of technical assistance based on what we've learned here in Philadelphia and from our partners around the country. And we've just created a whole list and an online request form so that unions and contractors and others can request technical assistance so they can implement gender equity and racial equity best practices. So from technical assistance, let's move a bit to how we look at both the supply and the demand for women workers in infrastructure projects. So when it comes to equity and infrastructure, we work on both the supply and demand side for an inclusive workforce. On the supply side, we have started by creating a trades career exploration materials for women. So we started out just making sure that women had knowledge about trades careers. We have a website, posters, postcards, social media, videos, a podcast, and a speakers bureau. And the goal was to attract more women to the existing trades readiness programs. We have a series of pre-apprenticeship programs in Philadelphia that accept any career seeker who's interested in a trades career. But we found that wasn't enough. We needed to create a woman-focused pre-apprenticeship program to really drive interest and enrollment. And that's what a lot of other programs have found around the country. So in 2021, we chose a local apprenticeship program, the Finishing Trades Institute, to deliver a woman-focused pre-apprenticeship program because of its commitment to women's leadership and equity. And they deliver the nationally recognized North American Building Trades Union's Trades Readiness Program. Since piloting the program in 2021, we've graduated 60 trainees, and half of the ones from the 2021 and 2022 groups are already working as apprentices. And that's pretty close to the national average for trades readiness programs. The 2023 graduates are still in their application process because most apprenticeship programs start in the spring. So we also recognize that creating a pipeline of diverse talent was not enough. That we needed to assure that those tradeswomen were actually hired and retained by apprenticeship programs in their unions and their contractors. So again, although we know that a lot of these folks have great intentions, they may lack the knowledge or capacity to implement the best practices we know about for creating gender equity, safe workplaces, inclusive workplaces. And for those who aren't as focused or as serious about meeting equity goals, we work with the public agencies, funders, and contractors, developers, to actually incentivize and monitor progress towards equity goals in infrastructure projects. So lastly, that leads me to the future for WINC. What are our future goals for this work? We have 3 focuses that are going to expand our demand side work in the next year. First, there's a federally funded construction mega project starting up. One of our federal courthouses is going through a renovation, and WINC is going to be participating in the EEO committee that's been established by the Office of Federal Contract Compliance to oversee that project. So we're going to be able to offer technical assistance on the spot so that project can meet or exceed its goals. And as you may know, the federal goal for tradeswomen is to perform 6.9% of all of the work hours on federal construction jobs. And we want to help that happen. Our second project is Amtrak. Our Amtrak station locally is doing upgrades, and we're in contact with those agencies and contractors to offer technical assistance so more women and people of color benefit from those jobs. And we've already received funding for our pre-apprenticeship program from the lead developer of that project. And thirdly, the city of Philadelphia is pretty unique. They have created an infrastructure task force so that citywide there can be coordination of all of the grants for the streets, the highways, the airport, and the water project upgrades that are being funded through infrastructure money and other public efforts. So they convene monthly tables to coordinate grant awards and to focus on equity and workforce efforts. Philadelphia Works sits at those tables, and WINC will be able to offer technical assistance directly to task force members around gender equity and workforce development as those projects kick off. So it's a lot of work. And it's really rewarding work. I hope you will join us if you're not already joining us. Thank you for your interest. I will leave you with some contact information so you can learn more. And I'll share that screen again with you. Please connect with us at WINC. The best way to do that is through our website, wincproject.org, or you can email us, and we're looking forward to connecting. Thanks so much.
Our last feature is from COET, Central Ohio Women in the Trades, primarily based out of Columbus, Ohio. Christine Marcy is a union electrician with 15 years of experience and a co-founder of COET, along with her best friend, Jill Connor. She currently serves as the executive director of outreach and programming on COET's board. Her video also is moderated by CWIT's own Vanetta Robinson.
Hi, Chrissy. Why don't you tell me a little bit about COET?
Hi, I'm Chrissy Marcy. I'm co-founder of Central Ohio Women in the Trades. In 2017, Jill Connor and I got sponsored by our union to go to Tradeswomen Build Nations. And we came back fired up and enthusiastic to start a women's committee in our union. And we were not allowed to. So Jill and I wanted to find a way to do it anyways, outside of our union. So we figured since our union was only 40 women, we would talk to all the other women trades because we all had to be facing the same challenges. And that's how we started. We have grown since then, and we now offer do-it-yourself home maintenance classes for women that we use as a recruiting tool. We go in and we teach the women basic electrical, plumbing, drywall, hanging and patching, touch on HVAC, so that they know how to change their filters and that sort of thing. And then we're like, hey, you know how to use the two basic tools. You're lined up to do an apprenticeship if you're looking for a job that has variety in it and indoor, outdoor work, a lot of multitasking and change. And we talk to them about the unions. We also do a lot of job fairs with a bunch of the advocacy groups around the city and state. And then one of our favorite things, obviously, is the social portion where we talk to the tradeswomen who are already in to find out what support, mentorship, and retention would mean to them.
Cool, thanks. So what role do you think that tradeswomen like you all play in advancing equity in the infrastructure?
I think that we play a very small part at the moment, and that's why they aren't advancing near the numbers that they need to be. We're at such a deficit for tradespeople in general that the unions and a lot of these companies don't know how to look for women and where to look for these women. So I think if they would, I want to say employ us better in their defense, not in their defense, in their their plans of how to recruit, they would have better options. Because I think one of the most popular things we say is, if you see it, you can do it. And you just are not seeing women out there recruiting. You're not seeing them on the front lines talking to other women or other minorities that they look like to make it a possibility.
Yeah. And you kind of touched on this already, but going over some of the like unique barriers that tradeswomen really experience when they're entering construction wraps, being placed on the job site and also just being retained. Do you want to expound on that a little bit more?
I think construction has hit a spot where the rigidity of them and their old habits dying hard are going to hit them in the face. The world is changing, the workforce is changing, and they're going to have to find some flexibility in their scheduling. Most women are the office managers of their home. They are the ones 90% of the time that are doing the doctor's appointments for their kids. They're also the ones driving to sports and other events like that. So we have to have some flexibility. But we're also facing the challenges of now these families are caring for their elderly parents. So where we may have short-term disability or maternity leave, we don't have paternity, I don't know what you call elder care, people who are not going to tolerate the unsafe conditions that a lot of people have put up with for a lot of years. They're also going to demand the proper PPE and the safety accoutrements that fit their bodies. Now, I think the guys will all benefit that we are standing up for ourselves, because they'll get the proper equipment, cleaner bathrooms, better job sites.
So when we're thinking about some of those industry stakeholders, right? Like, so those construction wraps, those project owners, and you've kind of touched on this as well, subcontractors, what can they do more to support, equity in this type of infrastructure work?
I also think that companies need to look at nonprofits like mine and the people who are working for them that are engaged in it and pay them to do the recruiting for them. One of the biggest challenges we face as a nonprofit is being able to pay subsidies for these women to take off work to go to middle schools or high schools or do career fairs during the day. The NAWIC events that we attended last week were for office people who are in construction as well, but that their companies were paying them to be there. And I was taking off work to serve on their panel because my company did not see that as worthwhile for them.
Right.
So validating, the fact that they need other people doing their recruiting for them, or even talking to the union halls about who's going out and representing them is a big one.
And you also touched on my last question, which is some of the infrastructure projects. And I know we've had this conversation a lot about what is happening in Columbus. So give us a rundown of what's going on out there, some of those infrastructure and projects that are happening.
Well, one of the things, you can't miss Intel. The start, stop, the push, pull of Intel up here in Central Ohio. But we also have several Amazon sites happening in their data centers. Facebook is back and booming through here, but that's not touching on all the federal and state money that is running through here. OSU is finishing up their new hospital tower in the next 2 years, and then Nationwide Children's Hospital is building a bigger hospital tower. And then the Franklin County Jail has a third phase starting sometime soon, as well as all the improvement jobs we have going on with city and state buildings and all the road work. That's out of my scope of area, but some of the laborers and iron workers and stuff that we work with are building bridges and tearing down bridges and updating roads and lighting and all sorts of stuff up and down the corridor. One of the big ones we are talking about is the 75 State Route 75 over near Dayton all the way up to Toledo. They're going to be putting in, I think, 300 electric car chargers just in that run. That is going to be wide open for everyone to take part in.
Yeah. Lots of opportunity, lots of jobs, lots of places where people can be
employed. And we're short, I think last I heard, 4,000 tradespeople just in Central Ohio.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chrissy. Appreciate your results. Appreciate your comments. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for asking. I hope you all have a wonderful day.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank all of our speakers for taking the time to highlight the awesome work that they're doing and the need for this kind of work. So as for all of our listeners, we have some useful next steps. First, we'd love if you all took the time to connect with any of the regional teams highlighted on slide 6. We have their websites listed on this slide as well, where you can find more information on each of the regional teams and the kind of work that they do, and access contact information for their respective groups. If you'd like to learn more about different steps to advance women's equity in the construction trades, feel free to head to our website, where we have plenty of additional resources to educate yourselves and share to relevant groups or organizations, or your own groups and organizations. More specifically, we have the 10-point equity framework that Tina referenced earlier in the presentation on our website as well, and we have that link listed on the slide as well under equity framework. Next slide. Last but not least, we would like to take the time to highlight the work of our partner, Jobs for the Future. You can learn more about Jobs for the Future's National Innovation Hub for DEIA, or Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility in Registered Apprenticeship, by going to their website, also listed on this slide. In addition, we have both the QR codes and links to the Pledge Commitment, which is for employers, businesses, or organizations that want to show their support to increase access to apprenticeship opportunities for underrepresented populations. And we also have the QR code and link to the TA request form, where you could get free technical assistance. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We hope that you all learned more about the Tradeswomen Building Infrastructure Initiative and feel encouraged and empowered to take the strides to contribute to this goal of advancing women's equity and inclusion in the construction industry.